Doom v Vamus v Vamus, Epicureans. This is the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast One-Shot Edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
Doing well because we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Marvel Team-Up Annual number 1, The Lords of Light and Darkness. Written by Bill Mantlo, with a plot by Mantlo, Chris Claremont, and Bonnie Wilford, art by our pal Sal Buscema and Mike Esposito. Alright, Spider-Man and the X-Men happen to be on the same plane, traveling to a conference on radioactivity and mutations when the plane is attacked by a bunch of robots. These robots happen to belong to a secret government lab called the Nest, where there had previously been an atomic accident, one which turned the scientists there into energy beings, mimicking some of the gods of Hinduism. Now, the beings sensed that Jean Grey was aboard this plane and wanted to use her power as the Phoenix to hold them together so they could siphon off the Earth's energies so that they could become immortal. But after fighting and defeating them, Spider-Man and the X-Men hatch a plan to send the 8 former scientists out into space. We get another weird one, Stojr. Any quick thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, as I read through this and look through this issue, like there's some I like the art. I'm a big Sal Buscema fan, although, it seems like he's doing more of the breakdowns and Mike Esposito is maybe, finishing it, or he's leaning into a slightly different style here. I'm not really sure. So it's not pure Sal. So let's call it, right? Sure. Some of the characters look a little odd because of that. So you get a little silliness with some of these robots and things like that. It definitely has an older feel with the way that this is written. You get the different chapters and things like that, and the way people are set up. But even like the way that they're dressed, like I think it's a pretty cool shot of having the X-Men on the plane in their plain clothes. But like Cyclops doesn't have his red lenses for his glasses, so that's a little odd.
Yeah.
And Colossus looks kind of weird. And then we just saw in one of our last issues that Nightcrawler said, "I'm not going to use the image inducer anymore," but he's here using the image inducer on this plane. So
now there is a point of order in that, I suppose. We do get a Here, I just got to a page I was going to...
Did we get a little thumbnail that this takes place before?
Yeah, which actually is a little bit of annoyance for me here. Just a second here. Okay, at the bottom of the first splash page there, we get this... This is clearly in the Epic, but I've seen this in other ones where it's in black at the top, not at the bottom here. So that threw me off a little bit. But it says... The X-Men's Adventures in Marvel Team-Up Annual number 1 and Marvel Team-Up 53 fit chronologically between their return from outer space and their departure for Cassidy Keep in X-Men number 101. These stories are placed here so as not to interrupt the series' continuing storylines. So that happened. These things happened quite a bit ago in this volume.
Yeah, so I guess I missed that. I'll give them a pass on the image inducer thing. But I think that what's interesting too is about the thing with the Hindu gods. Like, it reminded me a bit of there's the villains that are the what did I call it before?
Is it the Zodiac?
Blank.
Is that who you're
the
thinking?
Zodiac? Yeah.
Okay.
So they were in like the Dan Slott run of Spider-Man, and then I think like in some Avengers Assemble issues or something like that. So I've seen them a couple times. I think they were in New Warriors or something like that too. But just kind of like they have similar weapons, and it's a larger group of these unknown characters that represent something else. The two things have nothing to do with each other. Just it kind of reminded me of that. That's all. What did you think of this issue?
Yeah, this one is loony. Most Marvel team-up books kind of are, honestly. Being an annual, I admit it felt like it dragged a little bit. It also felt like it had no importance or repercussions. There's no real connection to any other story here, with perhaps the exception of Skull the Slayer. We get one of the characters in here, the father of Jeff Turner, the Senator Turner's on this plane. Jeff Turner, his son, is friends with Jim Scully, who's part of the group that goes back into time, and Scully turns into Skull the Slayer. I never read any of those books. I had to look that up to figure out what the heck was going on. and I do feel that it has no repercussion, so it doesn't hurt that it's here at the back of the book and not put chronologically. But at the same time, if the idea of the epics is to kind of have the characters' stories in order, why put it in here but just separate it at the end? If it's going to be separated chronologically, why not just save it for a Marvel team-up book? So I felt the inclusion in the epic is weird. The story itself, crazy, but harmless. We also talked once before about Spider-Man and Wolverine meeting in our meeting and fighting in our review of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 17. I suspect this issue might actually be their first meeting, and the two clearly don't like one another here. Although I did feel like the dynamic was a little bit different because Spider-Man was the established character and Wolverine's the relative new guy. Where, as in that one shot in the '80s, it feels flipped, right? Wolverine's the old guy. We've established more of his history that he's super old, been around since World War II, and he's the grizzled veteran, whereas Peter Parker's the amateur, right? So that's interesting to see that this is the original dynamic, and then that changes later. One other thing I was going to point out, I'd gotten this picture teed up, but I think I've lost it now. Let's see if I can find it again. No, it's not going to happen. There it is. I don't know what page this is in the physical version, but the Soviet scientist who is attended by his translator, and his translator speaks worse English than the Soviet scientist. I just thought that was a hilarious little inclusion. I liked that. Speaking to this is definitely in the midst of the Cold War, and speaking to the kind of talking down of the Soviets and the Russians and so forth. Just a funny inclusion there. Even though the X-Men book itself is trying to be very inclusive with a person like Colossus there, right? Again, in the midst of the Cold War, that's still kind of a big thing. Anyway, harmless issue. Can't say I enjoyed it, but it didn't personally offend me.
Yeah, I guess I'll throw one other thing now that I realize that the chronological nature of this, and again, like, these things are not meant to be perfect. They weren't worried about people reading these back to back or micromanaging the timeline of things. But like, Jean was in the hospital in 101, and we saw all the X-Men go to Cassidy Keep, and she was, so
Yeah.
the them taking this little side trip on a plane, they weren't all together, because when they come back, they fight Firelord and they go right back out in space. So, they're just I don't know what little sliver of time they're talking about here at that footnote, but again, it's a side issue. It's also interesting, like, we as we go through these and we see a lot of these like Marvel team ups and giant size annuals and 2-in-1s and all this like stuff. Like, there's so many like number ones back then. Like, I have no idea what series this belongs to. Like, I know it's Marvel Team Up, but it's the king size annual. Were they all king size annuals, or were there special king sizes? I don't know.
Yeah, that gets messy because I think, at least the way I've understood it, is the annual books change the name to king size and then change back to the annual. At least Amazing Spider-Man is like that. It starts as annual for the first 3 to 5, something like that, and then it becomes the king size Amazing Spider-Man for like 4 years or whatever. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but I still don't think it can hold a candle to the mess that the books are currently in. Although it's a little better because we have legacy numbering on the books now, so you can kind of keep track of them. But I guess it was late 2000s where you didn't have the legacy numbering, and so it was just you had no clue what volume you were in.
Legacy numbers are great. The annuals still piss me off, though, because the annuals still keep coming out with number ones
Yep.
for each volume, but there's no legacy numbers and there's no year. So, like, you literally have no idea what they're for. And then the annuals sometimes have nothing to do with the ongoing plot. So you almost skip them entirely until there's obviously the one that you needed because it furthers some plot of something.
Oh yeah.
So they need to add the legacy numbers or a year back to the annuals because those are driving me nuts.
Heck, I would love it if the annuals went back, if they went back to how it was in, I think, late 90s or late 80s, early 90s, where the annuals was when you had your big crossover events, right? That way you'd have the regular continuity in the books. You wouldn't have to have all this event fatigue. Like, I don't know about you, at least I do with all these modern books. I was getting event fatigue after, let's see, Siege. I think I got into Siege, and I was just like, no, I'm just kind of done with this stuff, and that's probably been 15 years ago now. But what's the event now? One World Under Doom, that just is wrapping up now as recording this. I tried to follow that one. I was reading all the extra ones. I finally gave up and just stuck out with the main issue. It's too much. But yeah, if the annuals had some kind of weight to them instead of just being new guy tryout books, that would be nice.
They have done that though. It's just that the stories have not been strong, so that's why you don't realize it. So there was they did some things with like infinite power or some infinity gem thing. Like, because you get the Spider-Man annual and it like just makes no sense like as to what you're trying to do. But you have to get all the annuals because it's just all for that crossover storyline. But the problem is that there's no hype for it. There's no house ads for it. Like, you don't even. I had no idea what it was, except I got the one annual, and I'm like, this isn't that interesting for me to go seek out, the 10 other annuals and follow this one particular storyline.
Yeah, I did the same thing and had to do some research on that one. You're right, I forgot about that. But yeah, okay. Any other final thoughts on this particular issue?
No, I'm good. This, I'll say I love some Sal Buscema art though. So even if it is a little bit touched up by Mr. Esposito.
All right. Well, if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, again, follow us on YouTube, where we'll read, rate, and review a full Epic Collection trade paperback every other week. Those episodes and these episodes we're also putting up as audio podcasts, so you can find those wherever, whatever podcatcher you use. Hopefully Apple too. I still don't know at this stage. Anyway, thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with the next issue.
Have a good one.